Welcome. This is Talking Business, and I'm your host, Darcey Edwards. Today, our guest is Miss Beach Pace she's the CEO of the Big Brothers Big Sisters organization here in Hillsboro, city council person, varied background. I wanted to ask you to come and join us because we had spoken before about how running a nonprofit is a business. Can you elaborate on that? Like how those two mesh?
Sure, and I'll even talk a little bit about nonprofit.
Right.
I think it's interesting how in the sector for nonprofits that it's referred to nonprofit and it talks about what we don't do. So I'm on a personal crusade to talk about what we do, and I call this sector social impact or social change. So in the social change sector, yes, we have rent, we have salary, we have insurance, we have directors and operators insurance, all the things that, not all the things, but many of the things that a business has. And I do often get like, well, you run a nonprofit. And that's like, it's different, but I still have to pay my folks. We still have deliverables. We still have goals that we have to meet, and we do meet. And so very similar in that sense to a business.
Right.
So.
And you, in your past, you served in the military, and I want to thank you for that service. And in that, your training and so forth, how do you use that to run this nonprofit and make it run like the well-oiled machine that it is?
I think the lessons learned from the military I use every day.
Right.
And I think there's a concentric circle way of thinking about it. It's first, you lead yourself. Are you ready? Are you capable? Are you competent? And then from there, how is your team doing? How is your immediate team? And then the team out from there. And I think it's important. I always remember that mission first, people always, right? How are your people doing? Because without them, you do not accomplish the mission. And that's, that's something I learned in the military.
That's a great answer.
Thanks. I mean, there's a lot more to it. I mean, that's a whole separate interview.
Oh, sure.
Frankly.
Yeah, that's the boot camp.
Yeah,
this is boot camp.
Yeah,
we'll do that.
Yeah,
we'll talk more about that. But what I gathered from what your answer was, and it's very applicable to business, is you need to make sure that the people that are working for you are happy and taken care of first, so that you can serve.
Yep.
In the capacity that you are given. I also mentioned that you are on our city council here in Hillsboro.
Yes.
By the way, we're outside.
Yes.
It's a beautiful
day.
October day. I don't know when you're going to watch this, but it's a gorgeous October day. So we decided to take it outside because the beautiful foliage and so forth, but also to make sure that we're safe.
Yes.
For Beach's mom, who's an elder, and we need to keep that in mind, to think of our elders when we're out and about. Yeah. But talk to me about what was your catalyst to join or run for the city council?
It was many years leading up to that. I had been asked to run for different roles here in Hillsboro and another city I lived in, and I always just thought people weren't serious.
Right.
And also my kids were much younger, and looking at what it would take to run for council and then serve properly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I had a lot of things to keep in mind, but there were a couple of different moments in time that led me to run. One of them was just being frustrated with the lack of representation in general in government.
Right.
The world is made up of half women. Right? But when you look at our governing bodies, that is not the case. And I can't tell you how infuriating that is to me, that you and I and our sisters and daughters and moms are not represented for centuries. And I could go off on that, but I won't, because, so there's that.
No, true story. It is infuriating.
It's infuriating. And then the other piece is, seeing some things around the city that I wanted to lend my voice to, and also lend my experience to, my military experience as well as my corporate experience. I spent 10 years in corporate sales and marketing, and then of course the social change sector. So bringing that voice to council I thought was important. But then I was in my car one day driving home from work, and I heard an interview with a woman named Jillian Shoney, and she runs an organization called Emerge Oregon, and that organization trains women on how to run for office. And so I'm just sitting in the car listening to NPR and listening to this interview. And Jillian said that men will wake up typically and say, I'm going to run. They're mad about something and they want to run, and then they just decide. Whereas women have to be asked. And she said women have to be asked 7 to 10 times. And at that point, while I was sitting in my car, I'd been asked many, many more times than that.
Wow.
And it was almost like Jillian was talking to me. She's like, if you've been asked, you should be running. So that was, that was a turning point. I went home and talked to my wife again about it. We had been discussing it. And we talked some more, talked with our family, our kids, etc., because it's a decision that we all had to make. And then I decided to make the run with the support of my family after we all spoke.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things I want to hit on this.
Sure, yeah.
And you brought out some really good points. Do you have the bandwidth to run your corporation or your business and sit on a council or serve in that role well and with your family? So in that comes the word balance.
Yes.
Of being able to, I mean, you have a family, you have extended family
Yes.
that you're taking care of.
Yep.
You have your day job, and you have your city council job.
Yeah.
And serving all of those in excellence, because from the military, I've learned that you do everything in excellence, or you don't do it at all. How do you balance that? What is your thoughts on that regimen? Anything that you do. This is a podcast to give business owners tips and tricks, things that they can take and do today.
Yeah, I think a good analogy for that is trying it on first, right? We don't just buy clothes and never try them on, typically, right?
Right.
And so when I started getting serious about looking at city council, I started going to the meetings and going to the work sessions, just attending.
Right.
Right. And so that's not the same as being on council, but starting to attend every time, every meeting, and understanding what was happening there helped me understand, can I do this?
Right.
Right? Can I physically be there and be present? And can I make it work with my work at Big Brothers Big Sisters?
Right.
And the answer was yes. And then from that, I was able to make the final decision to go forward and run. But I tried it on first.
I love that.
Yeah.
Hashtag try that on.
Yeah.
Try it on first.
Try it on first. And then I interviewed all the counselors, every single counselor I talked to, about how did they do it. And many of them, well, most of them at the time, or even past counselors, were retired when they served. And that's a whole other topic of conversation about how you can have systemic discrimination. Just the way something is set up can keep people from being able to serve.
Right.
Again, whole other podcast, right?
Right. We have a series coming. We'll call it Beach Talk.
How the heck does this work, right?
Yeah.
So talking to them and understanding how did they make it work, and talking to the counselors that did have a job and a family, and understanding how they made it work. And also realizing that many of their answers were, oh, my spouse, typically my wife, does that. Well, that's not how my wife and I work.
Right.
Right. And so really nice that your wife can pick up the slack, but I'm in a much more, frankly, mutual situation. I'm throwing some counselors under the bus right now, but I think a marriage should be equal and even, and that's how we do it.
Well, every marriage is different. Your wife has her own business.
She does, yeah. She's a police officer.
She's a business owner as well. So
she's a police officer with the Hillsboro Police Department. Yeah.
So another career that is time consuming.
Yes.
And doesn't always have regular 9 to 5 hours and all over the place. So that is such a different outlook, and I think people need to know that it's okay to run. Do you have aspirations to go and run for other offices?
I do, yes. So in 2022, I'll be running for re-election for City Council. Okay. And should I be re-elected, I hope I will be. I then have plans to run for mayor of Hillsboro in 2024.
Excellent. You heard it here. So
it's official.
It's official. This is the kickoff.
Yeah.
So looking back over your career and your time that you've spent, what are some things that you may have either implemented earlier or not done? Or so this is the other part of the podcast that we tell people, like, hey, if I was, I didn't set my schedule right, or I wish I would have hired the accountant earlier. Those type of tips and tricks.
Yeah, it took me a while to learn something that I practice in my job and then with city council and even with my family is go slow to go fast.
Oh, yeah.
So understand what the landscape is, what people need. Don't just assume you know. Saying, well, I have the answer. It's extremely rude to think you know the answer to something without talking to the people who would receive that service, whatever the service may be. And so I wish that I had learned that sooner. But now that I have, I feel great when I implement it and people are like, come on, we gotta go. I'm like, where are we going? What's the rush? Because if we're gonna do it, let's do it right. And when you do it right, that means involving the community that you are going to serve in whatever capacity you're working. Right? If it's your employees, if it's your clients, whatever it may be, or your constituents, make sure you check in with them first. And when you go slow to go fast, I have found that the product is always better.
It is. So who wins the race at the end? It's the turtle.
Right.
It's not the rabbit.
Right.
So I love that. So we know your one plan for, to run for mayor.
Run for mayor, yes. Yeah.
What do you have plans and goals for your career life?
That is such a good question. I feel like I need a coach on that one, but I really enjoy my work at Big Brothers Big Sisters, and there's always more kids to serve.
Right.
We have kids on our wait list, and so that's my goal at work, is to make sure that we get those kids off the wait list. The day I get to go into work and that wait list is cleared, I feel great. And then I go to the next city.
Excellent.
Right. So we serve the Portland metro area. Right. So Vancouver down to Oregon City and Gresham over to Hillsboro. We get calls every week about kids needing help in Salem and Eugene. So that's where I'd like to go next.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you serve kids. Let's bring that in.
Yeah. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. That's what people who own businesses have them. And people who are in the community don't know how to serve or help. So here's your platform to talk about that and
thank you.
Involve.
Yeah, thanks for asking. You can serve with Big Brothers, Big Sisters many ways, but the basic of Big Brothers, Big Sisters is we provide mentors to kids who are overcoming some kind of challenge, or in some cases, many challenges, right? So you can apply to be a mentor, and when you do apply to be a mentor, you will be with that kid 3 to 4 times a month, check in with them, take them on an outing over the weekend, for example, go on a hike or go to a Blazer game or go to a Timbers game or go bowling or whatever it might be that kid enjoys. And just being with them and being another adult in their life has a tremendous impact for those kids. And we have found that through those interactions, and our staff supports you as a mentor when you do that, through those interactions and with staff support, our kids get better grades. We have a better graduation rate. They do better post-graduation, and they're more active in their communities and more active in their schools because of the mentorship piece. And so that's what Big Brothers Big Sisters does. And so the first thing you could do is sign up to be a mentor. And if you're like, I don't know about being a mentor, you can always donate. My favorite thing is when people do both. They donate and they become a mentor.
Right.
And our website is itsbigtime.org. So check us out, itsbigtime.org, and you can learn about donating and learn about becoming a mentor.
Awesome. Thank you so much. She's a busy lady, and the fact that you took time out to talk to me is a huge privilege. Thank you so much.
Thanks for asking, Darcy. I appreciate it.
Hi, this is Betty Campbell with Xpose Hope with your Xpose Hope moment for today. Did you know that human trafficking has actually surpassed weapons trafficking in the world? It has. That's why ministries like Xpose Hope are so important. Help our outreach by donating at xposehope.com/donate. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Talking Business, brought to you by Xpose Hope. We can be found on all of your favorite podcast platforms, YouTube, iTunes, all of them. Also, be sure to like us, share us, and leave a comment. Who do you want to hear from? We want to know.